Day 6 of the mini transfer window. Nothing of real note from Newcastle United. We've signed one for the future, but we will be losing some players for the present. Let's get into this.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.
Hi everyone, back on my YouTube channel. It's Chris back with a rumour has it, transfer talk, whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to talk about Newcastle United's transfer business. It's very hard because there isn't a lot of business really going on with the club right now. Certainly not of anything of any real note. Loads of players being linked, but nothing really materialising. But good news, we have signed a player. I'll get stuck into that in a minute. But first of all, I'm going to talk about the links of potential players leaving the football club. Now, I've had two definite links, and one is a little bit of speculation. I'm going to start with that one because that's the biggest player, and it's been something that I really want to talk about for a while, to be honest with you. I nearly talked about it at the end of the season when we did the show, kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. I said I had a worry about this, and hearing the noises coming out of Liverpool, now that is Liverpool, not Newcastle. I know we're a Newcastle channel, but hearing some of the noises coming out of Liverpool, I'm a little bit concerned about what this could mean for Newcastle United and Anthony Gordon. So the player that could set this whole thing in motion, this whole kind of merry-go-round of transfers, which often happens, one person moves, another person moves, another person moves, and it goes round like a big circle. It really happens with managers as well, to be fair, but certainly happens with players. But Luis Diaz, the Colombian winger for Liverpool, just helped Liverpool win the title. To draw with Manchester United, I think, for 20 titles. So he has come out with some really weird comments, to be honest with you. His future's been speculated upon this summer, no doubt about it at all. Barcelona have been linked. People talk about Saudi League, stuff like that as well. This is what Luis Diaz had to say, which I think is a bit weird, and I'll get into this in a second. But he's saying, I'm very happy at Liverpool. They've treated me well since the first day. We're talking with other clubs, which is weird. It's the transfer window. It's normal. If Liverpool, it's Freudian slip. If Liverpool renews my contract, or if I have to stay the 2 years I have left, I'll be happy. It's up to them. So it's a bit weird that. So kind of noises like that coming out of a player talking so openly in one side, saying we're talking to other clubs, and then the other side, he's happy to stay. I don't know whether that's lost in the translation a little bit or whatever, but what would it mean for Newcastle United if Luis Diaz left Liverpool? Well, the big concern for me is Liverpool would come in for Anthony Gordon. Now, cast your mind back to last summer in the complete fire sale of PSR FFP, when Newcastle United were running around panicking, trying to figure out how they were going to find this money to prevent breaching PSR and FFP, which is the biggest load of shite I've ever heard in my life, as I've said in previous videos. But that's what the club were doing. They were running around, scurrying around, and had they not had offers for Yankuba Minter and sadly Elliot Anderson, then Anthony Gordon may have ended up leaving the football club. Now, Anthony Gordon's never really looked right since that happened. He signed that new contract. We've had kind of temporary moments of flashes from Flash Gordon, Arsenal in particular in the cup, but very few and far between. Stupid red card. He missed the cup final. He struggled to get his form back up. Thankfully, Harvey Barnes has stepped up and had a really good season. And you know, Gordon just hasn't looked right. Even the end of season lap, he was kind of away from the rest of the players and didn't look really like he was interested. And I'm a little bit worried as to what Gordon's future may or may not be on Tyneside come next season. But this could all kick off, I think, if Luis Diaz leaves Liverpool. So say, for example, if Barcelona are flushed out with this latest noise from Diaz and maybe increasing off, and that's possibly what his agent's doing. It's a statement that's gone out to maybe see who's going to blink first, whether it's Barcelona or Liverpool. You know, maybe Liverpool give them more money, maybe Barcelona come in with a more enhanced offer, for example, and maybe the Saudi League is an option. Personally, for someone like Diaz, I don't think the Saudi League is an option for him. We know bets are off. I mean, you know, John Duran went there, didn't he? And he's a young player, but you know, Luis Diaz himself. Just trying to see how old Luis Diaz is, to be fair, on the magical page of Wikipedia. But he's 28. So if you went to Saudi for 2 seasons, you'd earn more money than you probably would earn in 5 seasons in Europe. And then you could still go back and play in Europe, or certainly go back and play in South America. So, you know, that could be an option for him. And Bruno Fernandes just turned down a reportedly 700 grand a week to play in Saudi Arabia. Now, I'm thankful that he did, because the PIF once again will be bailing out our rivals and helping them with FFP and enhancing them in the transfer market. They've already beaten us to, reportedly, according to Luke Edwards, our #1 right wing target in Brian in Burmo, which is not good. But I think the way it sounds is that Newcastle had him top of the list, but the minute they knew how much Brentford wanted in terms of transfer fee, and more importantly, how much wages he wanted, he was off the table. So there is other options in there, which we'll do a separate video on, because we've got some stats to talk about the player that apparently we're looking at now, who could maybe be option B for that right wing position. But going back to this situation, if Luis Diaz leaves Liverpool, I'm pretty confident they're going to come in with a bid for Anthony Gordon. Now, what would it take to get Anthony Gordon out of Newcastle? Probably about 60 to 80 million quid. And I think if Newcastle get that offer, I don't think they can say no to that. I really don't think they can. But I think more importantly, Anthony Gordon will want the move. You know, he hasn't looked right in himself this season. You know, for what it's worth, I love Anthony Gordon as a player, and I want him at Newcastle next season, and I want him in full flight at Newcastle next season. When he's at it, he's one of the most dangerous wingers in European football. Pace, endeavour, work rate. You know, he's like a pit bull hunting down players. You winning back possession, the way he can get in behind the defence and, you know, and get a goal or an assist or win you a free kick or a pen or something like that, somebody sent off. He's absolutely brilliant, lightning fast, you know, and aggressive as well. And I love that about Anthony Gordon when he's in full flight, but we didn't see any of that really last season. Really small fits and starts, you know, and I think if Anthony Gordon can come back to Newcastle, have a good pre-season, good summer break, get his head right, come back and be the Anthony Gordon that we all know he can be, then brilliant. We've got a great player on our hands. But this Liverpool thing, I just can't shake the itch with this one. I think something is going to happen with this. I think the player maybe wants the move. If Liverpool want him as a player, I think that will happen. I really, really do. Now, what would it mean for Newcastle in terms of a replacement? You know, names have been linked to that position, and there is a name that doesn't go away, and it's Jack Grealish. Now, whether you rate Jack Grealish or not, or whether you want him or not, he's 29 years old, so he's a bit older than Anthony Gordon. But a Jack Grealish on loan deal wouldn't be the worst bit of business. If Anthony Gordon was to go to Liverpool for 80 million quid, you could reinvest that money in the squad in other areas, be it centre forward, centre back, right wing. And then you've got someone like Grealish in England at Nationals, played Champions League football for Manchester City, won titles for Manchester City, you know, been brilliant at Aston Villa. If he can come in and do a job at left wing for you on a loan deal, it's minimum risk to Newcastle. So, you know, this one is one to watch. I think the Luis Diaz situation. If Diaz goes nowhere, I think Gordon stays in Newcastle, because I don't think he goes anywhere else. But if Diaz leaves, I can definitely see some movement happening with Anthony Gordon, which I hope doesn't happen. But I think that's something for certain we're going to need to keep our eyes on. But let us know in the comments below what you think if Diaz was to leave and Liverpool came in with a 60 or 80 million quid bid. What would you do? Would you rebuff it? Would you say no chance, like we would do with Alexander Isak? Or do you think that kind of money's good for Gordon? Are you concerned about how he didn't show up last season? And what do you think the problem is with Gordon? Do you think it's just a case of a bad run of form? Or do you think it's this summer move that didn't work? He just needs to get his head right and come back? Or do you think it's time for Gordon to move on? Let us know in the comments below, guys. Let us know what you think. But that is certainly one I think we're all going to be keeping our eye on over the summer. And that's probably our most high-profile player that potentially could exit the club. Because I don't think Isak, Bruno, Tonali, Botman are going anywhere. But Gordon is definitely one that I'm concerned about. But a couple of other players who have been linked for exits from the football club. Now, the first one I think is pretty plausible, and I think the name has been linked before. He was actually Mark's biggest disappointment of the season, and it's Joe Willock. Now, Joe Willock has been at times an excellent footballer for Newcastle. He came in on loan under the Baron of Bacon. Well, you know, Joe scoring the goals. He scored like 9 goals in 9 games or something. He was brilliant. He was this attacking midfielder who had this ability to arrive late in the box, almost Frank Lampard-esque, and just a great finisher, clinical, didn't waste chances, scored loads of great goals, kept us in the league, no doubt about it. And we signed him permanently, you know, and obviously Bruce left, Eddie Howe came in. And I think what Eddie Howe has done with Willock, and I'm not criticising Eddie Howe here, but I think he's almost coached that initial ability that Joe Willock came to the football club with, that ability to almost be like a false 9 or an attacking midfielder who just arrives in the box and can finish with a plum, you know, either foot, good with his head, that kind of stuff. But he made Joe Willock a better player. He taught him how to track back. He taught him work rate. He taught him how to carry the ball, 15, 20 yards up the pitch and do it with pace and strength. And Joe Willock was a better player all around for it. There's no doubt about it. But injuries have definitely taken a toll on Joe Willock. I think he's missed over 60 games for Newcastle United. And the latest links is that Fulham are interested in Joe Willock. And I think this move could appeal to Joe Willock in many ways. He's a London boy. It gets him back to London. He's 25 years old, so he's at the peak of his powers. You know, he's obviously come through the ranks at Arsenal, so London is somewhere he knows well. He's from London. He has settled in well in the North. I think he moved his family up there, but you know, London is home, isn't it, for Joe Willock? I think he was there straight away from the break of the season. Like, you know, there's a picture of a cabbie taking a picture of him, dropping him off in London. But he wouldn't be alone in that team. You know, there's a lot of ex-Arsenal players there. You got Bernd Leno, Iwobi, Emile Smith-Rowe. You know, Reece Nelson's been there as well. He's a good friend of Joe Willock. So that's the kind of move I can see happening. And Fulham and Joe Willock might be a good move together, because I think it would give us the finance to reinvest in that midfield area. You know, you look at the midfield three that we have, there's not many in the squad are going to dislodge Joe Linton, Sandro Tonali, and Bruno Guimaraes when they're fit. They're our front three in terms of midfield. You know, absolutely 1, 2, 3. They're the choices. Underneath them, you know, we've got Joe Willock, who can't seem to stay fit. You know, he has a little run and then he breaks down, and he isn't just out for a week or two, he's out for months. You know, Sean Longstaff's form has dropped off a cliff, and I think Sean is probably going to leave the football club. And very similar to Joe Willock, I think Sean is about, what, 26, 27, I think, possibly. You know, so Sean is looking for his next move for the peak years of his career. And Sean's a good player. He's a hard-working player. You get him to another football club, he's been linked to someone like Leeds. I think that's a great move for Sean Longstaff. Leeds love a hard-working player. He's not too far down the road from Newcastle. I think they would take to him really, really well. But I think the way we're talking about potentially signing a former player to meet the UEFA quota, I think Sean Longstaff's going to leave the football club. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, the Joe Willock to Fulham one is something I can definitely see happening. I think the player might want it, and I think Newcastle might think it's time for Joe Willock to move on. But he's been brilliant for us in his spell here, and he would go with everybody's good wishes. Now, the last player I'm going to link to exiting the football club, I think, is absolute nonsense, to be honest with you. I'm still going to mention it. I didn't want to do a separate video about it, but I'm still going to mention it. So it's this lad here, Lewis Miley. And anyone who's watched my channel for a while, or our channel for a while, you realize how much I rate Lewis Miley. Lewis Miley is a fantastic player. He's 19 years old, broke into the first team at 17, was playing in the Parc des Princes, tackling Mbappe. He was setting up goals against Chelsea. He was bossing games against Manchester United. And the kid had a bad injury because he played too much football too young. His body's still developing. He had, I think, back problems, and you know, I think he pulled something in his ankle or something like that when he was on England duty. So he'd been out for a while. He went away, come back pre-season. He's filled out. He's a bigger, stronger lad now. He's added goals to his game. Eddie Howe spoke so highly about Lewis Miley in terms of, you know, how he rates him, and he wants him to be part of this team. He's going to build a team around him in the future. And I firmly believe that. And I don't think Lewis Miley is going anywhere. But apparently Crystal Palace are interested in the player, who they call an unbelievable talent. And according to this journalist, who is, what is he called? Sam. Let's have a look here. What is his name? Sam Cohen. Sorry, Sam. And who's Sam C? I saw the Twitter handle there. I want to get your name right. But yeah, Sam Cohen is saying Newcastle are reluctant to sell a homegrown talent, but they may consider cashing in. And obviously, talking about FFP and stuff like that. For me, there's absolutely no way. If Sean Longstaff's leaving the football club and Joe Willock's leaving the football club, there's no way in God's green earth that Lewis Miley is leaving this football club. There's just no way. It's not going to happen. They are not going to sell this bright young talent, as well as selling Longstaff and Willock and having no midfield backup whatsoever for Tonali, Guimaraes, and Joe Linton. I just can't see it. I can't see it at all. I do think that Lewis Miley is probably frustrated. He wants games. And I understand that. You know, of course he wants games. You know, he wants to play his part, but he's only 19 still. He's a very young player. And I think it's somebody that, you know, for me, has a lot of development still to come. I think he's already shown what a really, really good player that he is. And I just think, for me, you know, he needs to stay at the football club. He needs to learn from the players around him, you know, and he needs to develop his game. And I think we've already seen some of the development in his game as well. He's starting to tackle people. He's getting stuck in, nailing people. I've seen a few really aggressive challenges from him. You know, that one when he went for the header, and it was Caicedo, I think it was, and he just flattened him and walked away. It didn't even look like he was affected at all. You know, if he can add the aggression to his game, as well as that vision of pass that he seems to naturally have as a player, and he's got goals in him as well. Why on earth would we sell a kid at 19 years old who could end up going to play for England, you know, and be that player? You know, he broke records by getting assists in the Champions League. He broke Bellingham's records. He broke Foden's records. You know, this kid is, the ceiling so high for this kid at this football club. And, I'm just a stupid lad on YouTube talking shit about football. These guys know football, breathe football, live football. Eddie Howe, Tyndall, all those guys, they're not going to get rid of Lewis Miley. They know how good that kid can be. So I think this is just noise, possibly to fill column inches, maybe a little bit of clickbaiting. And listen, Lewis Miley's agent might be trying to put some little murmurs out there to see whether, other clubs, respond and, maybe just check what the kind of viability is for his client to go to another football club. But I think Lewis Miley knows this is the best place for him to develop as a player, learn off those three unbelievable midfielders day in, day out in training. He's going to get his chance next season. There's Champions League football, there's Premier League football, there's Cup football to play. And I think Lewis Miley will play lots of games for Newcastle next season, and we'll see how good he is. He needs a good pre-season, injury-free, and I think this kid will show us exactly how good he is. He ain't going to Palace. He's staying in the Toon. I'll be livid if we sell Lewis Miley. I really will. But let us know in the comments below what you think about that story. I think it's horseshit. Hopefully it is. But finishing on a positive note, this window is quiet as a mouse. It really is. We're not signing any players. We're being linked to goals to the past, as I said the other day, in the shape of Tim Krul and Fraser Forster. It actually looks like Tim Krul probably isn't going to happen, but Fraser Forster, I think, could very well happen. So that one might go through. We're linked to Trafford, but that's not moving very quick. Man City there. But the positive news is we have signed a new player. So we have got a new player in the football club, and he's been all over the club socials. And it's this lad here. It's Antonio Cordero, who we knew was going to come. A young, exciting Spanish winger who came from Malaga. This was a deal we did a long time ago. I think he joins us officially on July the 1st. We've covered him before, and rumour has it, very talented player, quick, strong, has a bit of the Gareth Bales about him for me when I saw him play. He's able to create goals, get into the box and score goals, runs at pace with strength, can hold off players. It's all gone a little bit sour for him at Malaga, unfortunately. I think the original plan for Newcastle was to sign Cordero and then loan him back out of Malaga, but he's kind of shit the bed a little bit with Malaga. He played his last game. I think the fans booed him, and Malaga aren't particularly happy with the way this transfer is played out. He's only 18 years old, the lad, and he spoke so well. He really, really did in his interview. Some of the things that he said there, he said, I'm a very ambitious person. I don't have specific numbers. I just want to go for them all and try and achieve the maximum. I want to win all the possible trophies in the long run, but I'm aware of the hard work that has to be done to achieve it. And he also said about Newcastle as well, he also said that it's a club that he's followed for a long time. He's followed the city for a long time. It's a great place to come and play. It's an exciting project to be part of. And this kid is 100% bought into this project of Newcastle United. This is the kind of thing we want from players. It's really disappointing for the Brian and Burmo thing, but when you hear he wants 250k a week, no chance. Isaac ain't getting that with us. So Brian and Boom ain't getting that. So we'll move on to the next target, which we'll cover in the video in the next couple of days. There's been a Premier League player linked to the football club. Had a little bit of a mixed review from the fan base. I'm going to tell you what I think about it in the next video. I don't think it's actually that bad of a move, and I'll explain why. But going back to this kid's a right winger, to be fair. So he's got every chance. He'll come and join up with the squad on the 1st of July. Eddie Howe will take a look at him. Listen, if he plays pre-season and he looks shit hot, he might stay in the squad. They might not loan him out at all. But there is that skeptical side and cynical side of me, which is just, battle weary and worn down by football. That all I'm looking at this kid and seeing is the next Yankuba Mintel. I think I actually put a comment on one of the Jordan Journo's posts on X, and I said I look forward to him not playing for Newcastle and then flogging him for 30 million quid to a rival, because that's how disenchanted I felt about the whole Yankuba Minte thing. But hopefully with Cordero we do it right. But it'd be interesting to see what the kid's all about in pre-season. But it's nice to see a player standing with a shirt on and being excited to join the football club, speaking so well about it. And no disrespect to Cordero, but we want some first team signings as well. We're on day 6 of this window. I'm not sure we're going to move for anybody in this particular window. I think we're going to wait until the next window opens up, which will be the 16th of June. Maybe we're waiting for the PSR deadline to kind of come and go at the end of June and then start doing business. People's contracts running right down. Could nick a few players on a free, pay them on a big signing fee. There's also players like Jonathan David still up in the air in terms of looking for projects. That would be a great sign if we could convince him to come to this football club and play for us, on a free transfer, give him bigger wages as well. But, we're going to be across all these transfer links over the summer. They're not ITKs, they're just links. We're just talking about what's been reported in the media, giving our opinion on it, talking about it. And I thought I'd jump on and talk about these ones as well. So let us know in the comments below what you guys think. Are you worried that Gordon could potentially go to Liverpool if Diaz is sold? What do you think about Joe Willock going to Fulham? And what do you think about these links with Lewis Miley? Like me, do you think they're nonsense and it's just to fill column inches, or are you concerned that Lewis Miley maybe thinks his future is away from Tyneside? We always like to hear from you guys. Drop a comment in, like and subscribe. Keep it evermore. We'll be back soon with some more Newcastle United talk, hopefully about actual signings rather than speculation of signings. Have a cracker. We'll see you later. Cheers.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.